A small farmhouse near the Tigris River. Footsteps, dogs barking, rifles cocking. The air was thick with tension. Hundreds of soldiers surrounding the place. Armored vehicles everywhere. And the night felt heavy. While sweeping the area, one soldier stepped on a wooden plank buried under sand. He froze, nervous, slowly lifted it, and before he could even pull the trigger, a hand rose from the darkness. Then a man with a thick beard emerged, calm but firm, and said, "I am Saddam Hussein. I am the president of Iraq." Silence, then chaos. That's when everything exploded. Some soldiers were cheering, some were laughing, others just stood there, too stunned to believe it was real. One soldier stepped closer and said, "President Bush sends his regards." Another, filled with rage and revenge, hit him and shouted, "This is for 9/11. And right after that came the most famous announcement in modern history.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
But wait a second, why Saddam?
Weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction.
What did he have to do with 9/11 anyway? That's where things start to get messy. A war that destroyed an entire nation, killed hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis, and cost thousands of American lives. Cities leveled to the ground, families erased, and all that, supposedly, because Saddam was hiding weapons of mass destruction. Weapons that, by the way, were never found. Today, I'm gonna tell you the story exactly as it happened. No filters, no American propaganda, no media spin. I'll break down how Saddam was actually caught, who betrayed him, how they found this impossible hideout, and the biggest question of all, was he really hiding in a hole like they claimed? So before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet. And now, let's get right into it.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
In 2003, the whole world had its eyes glued to Iraq. American media were screaming about an imminent threat, weapons of mass destruction, shadowy terror plots, the whole 9 yards. Official statements were a shiny coat of rhetoric about protecting humanity. But the truth, much darker. Toppling Saddam, grabbing Iraq's wealth, and redrawing the region's map, US and coalition forces rolled into Iraq, officially to hunt WMDs and protect the world from terror. 3 weeks after the invasion, Baghdad fell. Tanks ruled the streets. Chaos and panic were everywhere, and explosions echoed through every neighborhood. In a public square, US soldiers hoisted the American flag over a statue of Saddam. A loud, unmistakable message: we won. But Iraqis read it differently. Not liberation, but domination, even over symbols. The troops later swapped the US flag for Iraq's. But the symbolic damage had already been done. While the media kept pushing the official line, UN reports were telling a different story. Hans Blix, the UN weapons inspector, after checking hundreds of sites, told the Security Council no definitive evidence of WMDs was found. The Iraq Survey Group later confirmed that much of what had been labeled biological labs, illegal missiles, or chemical stockpiles was either left over from past regimes or legitimate civilian infrastructure. The world started pointing fingers at Washington. France, Germany, Russia, China all blasted the invasion as a blatant breach of international law, saying the WMD claims were shaky at best, misleading at worst. The security case for war looked less and less convincing. It began to feel like a staged excuse to justify an intervention that served deeper interests. In a moment when America's credibility took a major hit, the official story shifted. It wasn't just about getting rid of Saddam anymore. The scope widened and darkened. Dismantle Iraqi state institutions, secure energy sources, and send a hard political message across the neighborhood. In short, we'll move where our interests meet, no matter the cost in blood or legitimacy. The US forces had a laser focus: Saddam Hussein and his closest men. But Saddam was no easy catch. He never stayed in in one place for more than a few hours, always moving in disguised vehicles. According to Khalil al-Dulaimi and close insiders, he was just 50 to 100 meters from his statue during Baghdad's fall, inspecting the streets himself to make sure the city hadn't completely unraveled. His last sight, Al-Adhamiyah, a shock to coalition forces who had assumed he fled from the start. He even personally fought at the airport like a regular soldier, forcing Taha Yassin Ramadan to intervene and advise him to step back and resume his role as president and supreme commander. After Baghdad fell, Saddam ordered his army to fight with light weapons, instructed his sons and bodyguards to scatter, and kept only a small circle of close aides. Then he vanished from sight, kicking off the ultimate manhunt. Now the big question, how did the US military track him when it seemed almost impossible? Here is where the big money rewards turn the wheels of intelligence. $15 million for anyone tipping off Uday or Qusay Hussein. $25 million for the one leading to Saddam himself. Intel poured in from all directions. Conflicting reports, endless rumors. But after months of chasing shadows, the breakthrough came. One man finally broke his silence, Nawaf al-Zaidan, a businessman from Mosul. He had been hiding Uday and Qusay in his villa in the Falah neighborhood, but agreed beat loyalty. For $30 million, 15 each, he sold them out and gave their location to the coalition forces. On the morning of July 23, 2003, a joint force from Task Force 20 and the 101st Airborne Division moved to surround the villa. Initial attempts to storm it were met with heavy gunfire from inside, turning the blaze into a mini battlefield. The resistance was fierce. Uday and Qusay refused to surrender until the bitter end. The order was escalated. 2 missiles rained down from Humvees on the villa. The entire neighborhood shook. Apache helicopters joined in, hammering the walls the brothers were hiding behind. 4 hours of relentless fighting ended in a massive explosion and then silence. When soldiers entered the rubble, they found 3 charred bodies: Uday, Qusay, and Hussein, Qusay's son. The news spread like wildfire, but instead of cheers, the American forces faced sharp criticism from global media. How could a full-equipped army fail to arrest 2 men inside the villa, having to turn it into a pile of ashes? Some commentators argued maybe the goal wasn't to capture them alive. Killing was simply easier than showing them on camera. The operation exposed the failure of the US strategy. Brute force and massive rewards didn't directly lead to Saddam, the ultimate target. Only a handful knew his whereabouts, and many of those were killed. Cutting off the last potential leads, Saddam didn't waste any time. He released an emotional audio recording, mourning his sons and grandson.
أيها الأحبة العراقيون، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ونعي إليكم إخوانكم هدي وقصي ومصطفى بن قصي. فالحمد لله على ما كتبه لنا سبحانه. لو كان لصدام حسين ما من الأولاد غير هدي وقصي لقدمهم صدام حسين على نفس الطريق.
This recording wasn't just a eulogy. It was a message charged with symbolism and strength, showing that the war wasn't over and that resistance would continue despite losing his sons. The man who tipped off Uday and Qusay received $30 million and was secretly relocated to the United States under full protection. The American media fully exploited the event. Photos, statements, massive headlines, everything meticulously calculated. The goal: send a clear message. Snitching base, betrayal guarantees a new life. The real story, however, began in the days immediately after Baghdad fell, while American planes combed the skies of Iraq and soldiers stormed palace after palace. Saddam Hussein moved between safe farms and houses in Tikrit, Al-Dur, and Samra, disguised in simple clothes, never giving away that just weeks earlier idea. He had been the head of a major state. Now we arrive at Al-Dur village, near Tikrit, Saddam's birthplace. April 2003. Saddam decided to hide in a private farm belonging to Al-Namik family, having rejected other locations out of fear of American forces. The farm, on the banks of the Tigris River, was relatively safe but also held personal history. The same spot he had fled to in his youth after an assassination attempt on President Abdul Karim Qasim, where he was shot in his leg. With caution and skill, Saddam ordered his men not to return to the farm unless he personally requested it. A smart move, but a fatal misstep. Even the presidential guard could become an asset for the American intelligence, potentially leading to the discovery of his location. The Namik family, Allah and Qais, welcomed the president and provided protection. But Saddam wanted more. A secret underground shelter, a small cement room equipped with an air pump, a ventilation tube, neon lighting, and space just for one person. The hideout was a secret even for the close guards. None of them knew it existed. The four men who knew the location: 1. Muhammad Ibrahim al-Maslat, colonel in the presidential guard, personal bodyguard. 2. Silwan Ibrahim al-Maslat, his brother and assistant in protection. 3. Allah Namek, farm owner. 4. Qais Namek, Allah's brother, assistant in securing the farm. Then came the field investigator Eric Maddox with a different perspective. Maddox realized that chasing down Saddam's officials alone wouldn't lead straight to him. They were his shield, but not entirely truthful. His focus shifted to the inner circle of the most trusted bodyguards. Eric Maddox, a US intelligence officer, began his work from Tikrit. Every interrogation kept circling the same name: Muhammad Ibrahim al-Maslat. As I said, he was Saddam's top man, a close member of his security circle, and a key figure in the al-Maslat tribe that formed the backbone of his protection. He wasn't just a companion. He coordinated resistance operations, supervised funding and communications, and moved between villages to secure the president movements. Maddox started narrowing the circle. He interrogated Saddam's personal driver gently. Then one of al-Maslat's relatives, who mentioned a curious detail: "My father used to go fishing every week near Al-Samra village." That sentence was the key. Al-Samra sits near the Tigris River, and Saddam was known for his love of grilled fish, even during wartime. Maddox connected the dots, and the search map started to take shape. Tikrit, Al-Samra, a small village called Al-Dur. After questioning local fishermen, they discovered that one of them was a cousin of a resistance officer living in Baghdad. The possibility that Muhammad Ibrahim al-Maslat was hiding there became real. With a weak chain of leads, they decided to raid the apartment, and there they found Muhammad Ibrahim al-Maslat himself. It wasn't real whether he would reveal Saddam's location, but Maddox promised protection for him and his family. Muhammad al-Maslat, despite all temptations, initially refused to cooperate, relying on his deep loyalty to the president. But what al-Maslat didn't know was that the Iraqi translator Samir al-Jassim, who had previously worked against him personally, would be present to manage the conversation and translation, adding an extremely high-pressure psychological dimension, aiming to ensure the accuracy of the information. By 8 p.m., after hours of tension and pressure, Muhammad al-Maslat contacted intelligence to confirm the president at Al-Dur farm near Tikrit. This was the critical moment that shifted the balance of power. He led them to the village himself, accompanied by a joint force from the 4th Infantry Division and the Special Task Force 121. They started searching 2 houses as described, but both were empty. The soldiers were on edge, and Maddox thought for a moment that al-Maslat tricked them. Then the man slowly lifted his head, pointed toward a small hut, and said in a low voice, "There, but he must not see me." He asked to stay back from the area, fearing that Saddam would see and recognize him. The approach to the farm was executed in 2 phases. One team stormed the farm, capturing Allah al-Namek and his brother, securing them completely to ensure no resistance. Another team stayed around the perimeter, securing al-Maslat and translator Samir al-Jassim, preventing any attempt to manipulate information or escape. Upon entering the farm, arm, Al-Maslat and the translator pointed to a small wooden panel on the ground, indicating the secret hideout. They lifted it, revealing a small opening beneath the ground. Tension escalated to the maximum. The US forces began firing at the opening, when suddenly a sharp voice emerged. "Don't shoot. I am Saddam Hussein. I am the president of Iraq." Then one by one, parts of his body appeared. The hand first, then the head. Then finally, the full president emerged, alive before their eyes, expressing a mix of anger and defiance. The soldiers shouted over the radio, "We got him! We got him!" The scene was shocking. The troops who thought capturing him would be the end realized that history itself wasn't finished yet. The Iraqi translator Samir al-Jassim, who held a long-standing grudge against Saddam, didn't hesitate to launch a violent assault. The moment the president emerged from the hideout, the American officers tried to control the situation. One smashed Saddam's pistol with the butt of his rifle. Another verbally insulted him, and a third soldier joked in a humiliating way. George Bush sends his regards. Aimed all this violence and humiliation, there was no room for doubt. There were key verification signs to confirm that the man in front of them was indeed Saddam Hussein himself. According to intelligence analyst John Nixon, 1. The old bullet wound in his leg from the assassination attempt on Abdul Karim Qasim. 2. The Pu Nasser tribal tattoo on his back and right hand. 3. The sagging lower lip from years of smoking cigars. All these marks were present, confirming that the man before them was the real Saddam Hussein, not just a double. Thus ended Operation Red Dawn, and Saddam Hussein was captured. After that, he was transported with extreme caution. The special forces and US intelligence ensured the utmost secrecy, moving him in an armored vehicle, accompanied by translator Samir al-Jassim, Muhammad Ibrahim al-Maslat, and his brother Salwan. Every move was calculated, every step under strict supervision, to prevent any escape attempt or resistance. During the ride, the psychological tension was intense. Saddam Hussein, furious and resentful of everything that had happened, turned to analyst Nixon and said, "You have assaulted me. I am a head of state, yet no respect was shown." Then came the stage of temporary trials, formalities set up by the US forces to assert political dominance. It was nothing more than a massive media spectacle for the world. Saddam sat inside the courtroom, surrounded by American soldiers, head held high, a mocking smile on his face, as if reading their thoughts. He knew what was happening wasn't about justice. It was just another display of power. The American media played its part masterfully. Images of Saddam being grabbed by the hair, footage of the farm and hideout, all broadcasted to show a broken, humiliated man, while the truth was entirely different. Iraq was burning, chaos consumed the cities, and the American army barely controlled certain areas. Saddam was then transferred to the military prison in Baghdad, where the official trial phase began. He faced a laundry list of charges: crimes against humanity, political repression, mass killings. But behind all these charges, a dirty political game was unfolding. The Americans wanted to seal the battle not with bullets, but by humiliating the image. Despite his attempts to expose lies and reveal the charade, cameras captured every move, every glance, turning it into evidence of guilt. Even American intelligence officers debated who deserves the credit for his capture. And Saddam, he just watched silently, laughing, as if he was saying, "You won in the picture, but you lost Iraq."
قررت المحكمة الحكم على المدان صدام حسين المجيد بالإعدام شنقا حتى الموت لارتكاب قتل عمد كجريمة ضد الإنسانية وفق المادة.
Finally, the day of execution arrived, Eid al-Adha 2006. The timing was deliberate. The execution on the first day of the holiday, so that the peak of celebration would coincide with the peak of condemnation, as if symbolically saying, even your day of joy will carry the fall of your symbol. The scene was shocking. Men approaching, the robe, Saddam's hands bound. Some spectators spectators hurling insults, others filming with their phones, and the strangest part, according to some reports, some of those who involved in carrying out the execution were Iranians. Imagine Iran, Saddam's historical enemy, and America's biggest regional rival, standing inside an American prison to execute an Arab president under American supervision. How did Washington allow this contradiction? Was the enemy executing its sentence? Or was the game bigger than enmity and deeper than justice? The message was crystal clear. America didn't just want Saddam Hussein dead. They wanted to kill the symbol of Arab power entirely. Hanged on the first day of Eid in front of cameras as a political sacrifice. It was a deliberate humiliation for anyone who saw him as a symbol of sovereignty and dignity. Even after the execution, American propaganda continued writing the narrative on its own terms. Carefully selected images, clipped videos, prearranged statements, all designed to show the absolute victory. Meanwhile, the human and political reality in Iraq after the invasion was catastrophic. This story reveals the truth. Saddam Hussein fell because of chain of complex decisions, bad advice, and betrayals from those who closest to him, not just because of overwhelming American force. Yes, my friend, Saddam's fall wasn't the result of American power, but of betrayal. And here comes the question. If Saddam knew his personal guard was being watched, why didn't he come up with a smarter plan? Stupidity? Overconfidence? Or had history already decided his fate before the game even began? And that's how the story of the Middle East's most powerful man ended. A man who had armies, weapons, and wealth, but lost everything due to trust, betrayal, and dirty politicals. He was executed on Eid in front of cameras, as if they wanted to slaughter not just his party, but the bride of the Arabs along with it. So what do you think, my friend? Did Saddam Hussein truly deserve what happened to him? Or was he merely a victim in a game bigger than everyone else? And was the execution justice? Or a message to every Arab leader who might think of rebelling? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.